Digital Marketing Radio, episode 166. Social media advertising today.
DigitalMarketingRadio.com.
Digital Marketing Radio is part of the 3B Podcast Network, UK casters talking business growth. Find out more over at 3bpn.com.
The big interview with David Bay.
Now today I'm joined by a man who has spoken at many top search marketing events, including Inbound, Search Love, SMX, PubCon and much more. He regularly shares his advice on Social Media Examiner, Search Engine Land and Social Media Today, and he's founder of Wordstream, a leading search marketing software and services provider based in Boston, USA. Welcome to DMR, Larry Kim.
Hey, David, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Oh, great to have you here. Thanks for joining us, Larry. Of course, you can find Larry over at wordstream.com. So, Larry, does advertising on social media need a completely different mindset and strategy compared with more traditional pay-per-click search marketing?
Yes, it absolutely does. So in search advertising, that's what I would call direct response marketing. So you're going right after people who are searching for a very specific thing at a specific time. That has like really high conversion rates because of the strong commercial intent. Social advertising, on the other hand, is a little different because no one's actually searching for something. You know what I mean? You're going after the target buyer in terms of their demographics, behaviors, and interests that match the types of people who your business caters to. And what you're trying to do is make it, so that they remember your brand. Because they're not really searching to buy something right at that moment. You're hoping so that they'll remember you, and then later, when the need arises to buy whatever it is you're selling, they'll make that connection and either do a direct search or search for your stuff, and be biased towards picking you out of the list because they've heard of you before. Do you see what I'm saying?
So I guess that's the biggest mistake that a lot of businesses make to start off with in social media advertising. They try and replicate what they're doing on existing pay-per-click search activities, and that won't cut it on social media.
Yeah, so social ads, it's basically indirect advertising, going after people who are matching your target audience, but who haven't yet figured out that they need your stuff, and both are important. I would argue that search marketing, so both paid and organic search, isn't actually growing your market. Okay, David? So if you're doing PPC and SEO, what you're doing is you're harvesting the existing market of people who are already searching for the products and services that you're selling. You're going after the existing market. You're not actually creating demand that didn't exist. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm.
Whereas in Facebook, if you're talking about your product and services to your target market, they may have not yet decided to buy this thing yet. You know what I'm saying? And so you're actually generating new demand for the product where it didn't exist previously. It's an important distinction, and I think more mature, smarter companies realize the importance of both activities.
So would you say it's fair to say that Facebook is the biggest social media advertising opportunity for most businesses at the moment?
Yeah, Facebook is to Twitter as Google is to Bing. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's kind of like, they're both big, but one of them is much bigger.
Yeah, it depends on the market you're in. The USA, I guess, Bing's a bit bigger than the UK here.
Yeah, but my point is, yes,
Yeah,
you're right.
I know.
Facebook is what is that? 1.5 billion users or something? That's
Yes.
like most of the planet. Your target market is on Facebook, I guarantee.
You can't argue with that, or you can't actually forget about Facebook, certainly, for many opportunities nowadays. So, I mean, specifically, what type of advertising Facebook tends to be quite effective at the moment?
So the most effective stuff in Facebook, in my opinion, is content promotion. So obviously, content marketing is super popular, and like you're an SEO and you're doing all this like blogging and stuff like this, and it used to be that the way that you would get people to read your blogs and all this stuff was showing up in people's Facebook feeds. Now, of course, the organic reach is less than 1% right now on average. So all those people who liked your fan page, less than 1% of them are on average seeing your updates. And so I think a really leveraged, form of advertising on Facebook is to just use Facebook for content promotion to get back that reach that you've lost. It's not free, but if you do it smart, it can be done very, very cheaply. So, for example, one of the things I talk about in a lot of my blogs is only promoting your very, very best stuff. I call these your unicorns because they're like your top 1% of your content. And that top 1% of content has such high engagement rates. And the way that Facebook ads work is it rewards high engagement with low cost per clicks and high reach. So that's what I would do.
Okay, and what would you say then if you're talking to a marketing director who wants an immediate call to action and struggles with the concept of actually driving people towards content with not necessarily a call to action in there?
Sure. You can still do a form of direct response marketing on Facebook. It's just a little bit indirect than a Google search. Okay. So what you do is you promote some content that's memorable, inspiring, and gives people lots of confidence in your brand. Okay, so like a great, just like a story, like some kind of blog post. Okay, now when they visit your site, you tag them. Okay, so you tag them with a remarketing cookie.
Sure.
Okay, so that when they leave and go back to Facebook, then you hit them up with an offer. Okay, you say now buy our stuff. Okay, so it's a little indirect. So you see what I did? Like I first biased you into clicking towards my site, then I put you in my cookie pool, then I told you to buy my thing. It's rather than just saying buy my thing right away, even though you've never heard of me before. And this is a much more effective way of doing this because there's like a self-selection happening. Okay, so like if 5% of the people click on your promoted post, okay, that means you're whittling down the audience to just the people who are interested in this stuff. Okay, and then when you remarket to that 5%, no one says you have to remarket to all of them. You can overlay certain filters in terms of like their income level or their job titles or industry, like anything really. There's 2,500 of these different demographics, interests, and behavior filters that you can apply to audiences, and basically you can remarket to a fraction of that remarketing audience in order to then convert that into sales and leads for your business. So that's kind of the play there.
And compared with more traditional pay-per-click search, does the process of driving people towards content, retargeting, once they actually are back on Facebook, and then obviously clicking back through to your site, does that process tend to be cheaper than just buying keyword phrases and pay-per-click search at the moment?
It is cheaper. So let me explain to you why. So direct response marketing on search is remarkably high conversion rates. We're talking like 3, 4, 5, even to 10% conversion rates from those clicks. You see what I'm saying? Because they're looking to buy something right then. So obviously there's strong purchasing intent. The only downside here is that the cost per clicks aren't free. Like a cost per click on Google in the United States could be $50 or $25. You know what I mean? Like it's people have heard of this. So and there's limited inventory that you're chasing after. So what you have in search advertising and SEO, which is similar, like it's a lot of competition for very, very high conversion rate stuff, So in social, the conversion rates are lower. I mean, because they're not looking to buy right away, but the cost per clicks are substantially lower. You're not paying $20 a click. It's more like 2 cents a click. And so if you can get these, so what if the conversion rate is 10 times lower on Facebook? If you can get the cost per click for 20 times cheaper, then you're still 10 times ahead. You see that math?
Yes.
How that works?
Absolutely. So what's the
difference
between
the other thing that's
Sure,
really
yeah,
important
go for
about this? The other thing that's super important about this is that you're going after people who weren't necessarily in the market to buy your thing to begin with, and I would argue that that's an even more valuable customer because you're going after people, you're growing the pie. You know what I mean? Rather than just fighting for your share of the pie.
It's an interesting concept. I hadn't really thought of it like that before, so I like that way of thinking. I'm just thinking, is bidding for a generic keyword phrase in paid search not growing your pie as well? Or would you argue that you should already know about that customer because they're already searching for the kind of keyword phrase that is related to what you do?
So by the time someone does a search for it, they've already decided they want to buy your thing. They want to buy something. They just don't know where to get it from. Okay, and if you're engaging with your customer at that time only, it's your chances are it's a coin toss. You know what I mean? It's like you versus the other 7 ads on the page. Okay, and maybe they'll pick you, and maybe they won't pick you. Okay, but if you can get to that person using social ads before they decide to search for something, okay, then it's like priming the user to be biased towards selecting you from the search result. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So people overwhelmingly click on the search ads of brands that they've heard of before. Overwhelmingly, by 3 times more likely to pick a brand that they've heard of than one that they haven't. And so by doing this, you're kind of giving yourself a remarkably unfair advantage as opposed to just being one of the 7 ads on a search result, alone.
And do you think this is a good process to follow even if your market is B2B?
Oh, especially if your company's B2B. Like B2B, the problem with B2B challenges is that they're often building these new technologies and new solutions that no one's ever heard of before because it's new. Do you see what I'm saying? And that means that there's no existing search volume for this stuff because like you're searching for some weird solution that never existed before and no one's searching for it. And so particularly in B2B, what I find is that companies are going after a target buyer, like demographics, like certain job titles, certain type of industry, certain type of employer, certain type of industry, certain years of experience, this type of thing, like where you're going after with certain behaviors, like they buy other marketing software or stuff like this. And so that is remarkably better suited for demographic targeting as opposed to keyword targeting where the inventory is just not there.
So I'm sure companies have come to you and said, I tried Facebook advertising, but it didn't work for me. So what's generally some differences between a company that is ultra successful using Facebook advertising and a company that just didn't quite cut it in terms of whatever metrics they wanted to focus on?
Sure, David. The number one, the biggest mistake that companies make when they're doing social advertising is promoting junk. Okay, like they'll put some piece of sponsored post that has like a 1% engagement rate. Okay, and they'll say, well, we ended up paying $5 a click for this stupid promoted post because it had a 1% engagement rate, and then it had a 0.5% conversion rate, and so this was terrible. Like I'd rather do something with a higher conversion rate if I'm going to be paying $5 a click. What they don't realize, David, is that the reason why you're paying so much is because of that crappy engagement rate. So the Facebook ad algorithm dramatically rewards high engagement posts with dramatically lower cost per clicks. And the reverse is also true. It penalizes brands and companies that try to promote junk by taxing them with ridiculously high cost per click. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So your cost per click, if you're promoting junk with 1%, it's going to be $3, $4, $5. But if you're promoting a piece of content that has 10 or 20 or 30% engagement, then you're going to be paying like 18 cents or 10 cents or 5 cents or even 2 cents a click for these clicks because the engagement is so high. And not only that, there's this notion of earned engagement. Because you're promoting content that is people are engaging with, like they're liking it, okay? So David, if you like the blog post that I shared and you like it, I have to pay for that like. But if your friends then interact with that post, because now they're going to see like, oh, David, liked this thing, if any of your 500 or 1,000 friends then click on it, that's free. Like that's earned engagement. Do you see what I'm saying? So second order effects, you don't have to pay for in social ads. It's the same thing with Twitter. If you retweet my ad, I have to pay for that. But if any of your friends see that and they click on it, that's free. And so since the whole strategy here is to share and promote things that are highly likely to be reshared, then you end up getting an effective cost per click that's like, could be fractions of a penny. I've gotten it down to like one eighth of a penny. So like sharing a 60% engagement post. You see what I'm saying? So that
Yes.
we just get so many reshares and stuff like this that it was like a nuclear reaction. It was like cold fusion. It just kept on generating. The more I promoted it, the more free clicks it generated.
Wow.
Once in a while you stumble upon these things. So that's the number one mistake, is just like promoting junk. And the cure is to only promote your unicorns. And your unicorns, it's my terminology, it's not an official word. I just call these your best stuff. Like, I'm sure, David, you've seen it in your own blog content that there's 5 articles that generate more than all the other articles. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like 80-20 or 90-10 or something like this. Like, for Wordstream, 50 articles generate half of the traffic on Wordstream.com. Like, we've got 1,600 articles, and 50 of them generate half the traffic. So those are my unicorns. So those are the things that you should be promoting, and not the donkeys. The donkeys are the ones that go nowhere. Like, don't waste a dime on those donkeys. You're better off spending it on the unicorns.
And
David,
are most of your unicorns at wordstream.com, are they actually intentional unicorns, or did they just happen to be that way? Did they just happen to resonate with people?
Sometimes you get, it's a bit of both. Sometimes you get lucky. It's like, holy crap, I didn't realize this was going to do so great. Okay, that's like the crashing your car into a gold mine by accident once in a while. But usually it's the case that you have a topic and an idea that's so great that you have a hunch that will do well, and that it does well. So it's both. Hey, David, just on this topic of like the biggest blunders. So the biggest blunder is definitely promoting donkeys instead of unicorns. The other idea is like in budget allocation. So say a company has $1,000 to spend. The biggest mistake they do is they say like, oh, we have $1,000 we can spend on social ads this month. We're going to have 10 updates on the Facebook page this month. Okay, so let's equally divide the budget, $100 to each post. And no, that's a terrible idea. Like, what you really need to do is not do that, because that means you're promoting your donkeys. You see what I'm saying? What you should be doing is saying like, I'm going to post my 10 updates for this month, see which one did the best, and I put the entire $1,000 of social advertising budget behind that one post that did the best. It's a little like how on blackjack, if you've got a really, really good hand and the dealer is showing a really, really bad hand, you want to move all in on that hand. You know what I mean? Like, put more money on the table because you have reason to believe that this is going to be more profitable. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely. So promoted posts. You've mentioned promoted posts a few times. So is that the initial place to actually spend your money on Facebook? And also, if so, do you have any ideal format for that? Yeah.
Yeah, it depends. Like, there's depends on the goals of your company. I mean, if you're doing e-commerce, obviously the place to go is Facebook product listing ads using remarketing. So remarketing to the people who checked out your product pages but didn't buy. If you're doing lead generation, then I would be pushing people to content first, and then remarketing to them using a lead generation ad format, which is it captures their lead without them having to type anything in. They just push a button and it sends over like the contact information, and that has a very, very high conversion rate. If you're doing just trying to build your brand, another really compelling option is video ads. So because they're just so much more engaging and more memorable. Like, the whole point of advertising. Do you know what the point of advertising is, David? It's to bias people. Okay, and in order to bias people, you have to be memorable. Like, they have to be able to remember you. And so video ads are just so much more memorable than just vanilla text, and just there's a couple other formats, like a click campaign. That's just basically where you're paying for clicks as opposed to engagement. But my point is that if you're only promoting highly engaging stuff, then you might as well just do the engagement campaign.
So we've spent most of the section discussing Facebook, reasonably so. What about Twitter advertising? What are you finding to be the most effective thing to do there now?
Sure. The crown jewel of Twitter advertising is custom audiences by username. Okay. So David, I can curate. It's very easy to find people's Twitter names. You just search on Twitter and you'll find their names. And you know who hangs out the most on Twitter? Journalists. They're on Twitter like more than any other group of people. So like if you're doing PR, what you should be doing is curating a custom list of like the 1,000 most influential people and journalists in your space, okay? And every time you post like a new update or a new blog post, you got to make sure that those influential people actually see it. And because they're only charging, it's like $5 for like 1,000 views or something. So like if you have 1,000, it could be like the editor-in-chief of Business Insider, or it could be like, the editor-in-chief of CNN. Like you can just get their addresses just by looking them up on Twitter, and then you can promote that content to the right people and not have to spend more than $20, because if you have a list of 1,000 people and you want to show each one of those people your ad 2 or 3 times, that'll be like $15. So that's not a bad deal, and I've done this, and I've created globally trending news stories that have generated tens of thousands of news pickups across like all of the major international news outlets worldwide, and even gotten like spots on the BBC radio and CNN and Fox Business and pretty much every imaginable outlet in the world, and it's for $20 or less.
That was absolute gold, I think. So, dear listener, go back and rewind and listen to the last 2 minutes again. In fact, listen to it all again. But do that. Target those top 1,000 PRs in your industry. Deliver your best content towards them, and then come back and tell me and tell Larry how you did.
Right. So it's just basically a super influencer strategy. You can still do this on Facebook. It's just harder. In Facebook, you can create custom audiences, but it requires phone numbers or emails of the username of the user. That's not impossible to obtain, but it's substantially harder to find than Twitter names.
So, what are your thoughts on the future of social media advertising, then, Larry? Are we going to dig in with Facebook and Twitter? Are there other networks that are up and coming? Are there different types of adverts we're going to see?
The biggest advertising play right now is Facebook by a landslide. The second biggest is Instagram. So that has more users than Twitter, more users than LinkedIn. It's by a landslide. And that has visual content that appeals to a lot of these business to consumer businesses, B2C. So those are two I would be hanging out on, Facebook and Instagram. The neat thing about this is that they use the same ad targeting system, so you don't have to like do a separate platform. Beyond that, Twitter is very interesting for PR, and that's it. I'm not very interested in LinkedIn at all. Like it's like $6 a click, flat rate kind of thing, and that's really basically there's no incentive to promote great stuff on LinkedIn. When I do a LinkedIn campaign, because it's flat rate pricing per click, I just promote garbage because I don't want anyone to click on it, right?
Okay.
Because you see what I'm saying? Because you have to pay.
So you promote competitors' content then? No.
No. I promote my donkeys on LinkedIn because basically you don't have to pay if no one clicks on it. You see what I'm saying?
Your brand building.
Yeah. Whereas on Facebook, if you promoted donkeys, you would get slapped with a massive tax that would make the click 200 times more expensive.
Yeah. I love your terminology, donkeys and unicorns. Wonderful. Well, let's segue into the second section of our discussion. So that focuses on Larry's thoughts on where digital marketing's been and where it's heading. So starting off with
software I couldn't live without.
So Larry, what software do you currently use in your business that if someone took away from you, it would significantly impact your marketing success?
Well, let's see here. I use extensively Uber, to get around. That's like a real productivity hack, to be able to just work instead of spend time in traffic. I use, let's see here, Twitter tremendously. That's another software program that I use for mass communication because, I've got 500,000 or so people who follow me, and so it's not possible to do that with email. You need to do some kind of a communication tool. I'm really into Facebook ads, Twitter advertising. Those systems, Google Analytics, Salesforce.com, Marketo. Another one that's really interesting is called BuzzSumo. And BuzzSumo is influencer marketing kind of helps find what's trending. So those would be some of on my list. Any other ideas there? Like anything else to add? Any questions here?
Well, that's a decent list there, and I'll certainly go through them and include links in the podcast show notes there. But slightly more challenging question: what piece of software don't you use, but you've heard good things about, and you intend to try at some point in the near future?
You were mentioning a product for video marketing just a minute ago. I can't remember the name.
Yes, I'm giving it a go at the moment. vmix.com. So at the time of talking, obviously, it's just been announced that Google Hangouts on Air is perhaps heading away. So we obviously are scrambling for different methods of producing and broadcasting live video, and that could be one of them.
So definitely, I will be checking that out in the next week.
Okay, okay. A software you don't use but heard good things about from me there. So I'll include all the links to the recommendations in the show notes, of course. But let's move on to...
I wish I would have.
So, Larry, I'd like you to look back in the very first day that you're involved in trying to market a business online. What didn't you do so well? What do you wish that you would have done differently?
Well, if we're talking specifically about marketing here,
Mm-hmm.
okay. So Wordstream is a pretty big company now, employing hundreds of people and with tens of thousands of customers. So things turned out okay. So I wouldn't change too much. But one thing that I might have changed is the emphasis of direct marketing versus indirect marketing, brand building. Okay, so Wordstream, like the first 2 or 3 years that I was building the company in terms of the marketing, there was a huge focus on this SEO and PPC. Okay,
Okay.
And in fact, such a intense focus that we didn't do anything else. Okay, it was like, you could look into our Google Analytics and it would say 97% of the traffic came from organic search, and of that organic search, 3% of it was branded, 97% of it was unbranded searches. You see what I'm saying? So it was kind of like we were the internet marketing company that no one had ever heard of, but just stumbled on by accident because I did link building or something a certain way,
Sure.
and people ended up finding it. I now realize how important it is to actually build a brand, and so we've since diversified our marketing efforts to include more than just SEO and PPC.
I think that's one thing that Google's done really nicely to SEOs. They've gently pushed them in a direction of proper marketing and building a brand, as you say, instead of actually relying on generic search and driving traffic from just any old keyword phrase in relation to what you do. But if you do that, people are experiencing you for the first time, and they might not even remember you, of course. They might be in the early stage of actually considering a purchase instead of actually seeking you out because they've heard of you and you've built that reputation.
Yeah, it's kind of what we're talking about at the beginning.
Well, let's move on to
The this or that round.
So this is the quick response round. 10 quick questions, just 2 rows here. Try not to think about the answer too much, and you're only allowed to say the word both on one occasion. Ready to go?
Yeah, let's do this.
Email or Twitter?
Twitter.
Audio or video?
Video.
Affiliates or display advertising?
Display advertising.
Facebook or Google Plus?
Give me a break. What's Google Plus?
You're about the third or fourth person in a row that's had an answer like that to that question. Online press releases or one-on-one relations?
Influencer marketing, one-on-one relationships.
Okay. Paid search or SEO?
I run a paid search company that does a lot of SEO, so I guess I have to you say both.
Email, contact form, or telephone number?
Email.
Website or app?
App.
Social subscriber or email subscriber?
Social subscriber, even though the reach is terrible, you can still use those emails.
And local marketing or global marketing?
Well, for me, global now at this point with 60 only 60% of the revenues are coming from Canada and the United States. The rest are like outside.
Well, we got through it with just the one both, so that was fantastic. I was a little surprised you actually selected app rather than website. Why is that?
Oh, apps are going to win the war of the internet. I mean, it's the writing's on the wall. The mobile web, it's just, people spend more time in apps than they do on websites, like on mobile, like substantially more. And that happened in 2014. And this trend, I see nothing, going to reverse this trend soon. Google is trying to fight back here with like stuff like AMP, like trying to make the mobile web like substantially faster and more responsive. But it's there's just so much more you can do in an app. So I think the future of the internet is going to be more appy than mobile web.
So should most businesses seriously think about incorporating the app as part of their strategy if they aren't already?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, tell me a business, and I'll tell you, like, why. I'll give you an example of an app that they should be making. Yes, it's like the idea of not having an app is analogous to the 90s when people were wondering if I need a website or not. Okay, and I'm like, emphatically, yes, you need an app. There's some people, smart people who I respect and admire who say that this is not the case. You actually don't need an app because apps are winner take all or something like this. Like that, there's only like 20 or so apps that people actually use. Like Google Maps or something like this. But I couldn't disagree more. I mean, this is the future. People, the way that people are going to access the internet is through mobile, and the way they access stuff on mobile is through apps.
And do you need to have apps for iOS, Android, anywhere else at all?
Just those two.
Okay.
Okay. And even just one. If you're B2B, it's overwhelmingly iOS.
Yeah.
The $10,000 question.
Now, if I was to give you $10,000 and you had to spend it over the next few days on a single thing to grow your business, what would you spend it on, and how would you measure success?
David, the most leverage that you can ever have in terms of sales and marketing is this notion of a growth hack. Okay, it's not spending money for Facebook ads or spending money on anything. It's basically making your product better. Or product or service better. That's where the leverage is. So I just want to give you one example, David. About 5 years ago, myself and two other engineers, we built something called the AdWords Grader. Okay, it's like this, free online tool that just downloads, some data from your AdWords account, and then it compares it to like all these other companies in the same industry and the same location, using similar keywords as you, and gives you a score. It's kind of like Zillow. Have you ever heard of Zillow?
Yes, I have.
It tells you like how you're doing, like is your click-through rate or cost per click doing it, versus other competitors like you, and gives you a score like 60%. Okay, so that took 3 people 3 months of time to build. Okay, now that has made Wordstream the difference between like a single million dollar company to being like, well, I'll just put it this way, substantially larger, okay, like by orders of magnitudes. And the reason is because now we've got this tool that, we don't even have to advertise. Like tens of thousands of people use every month for free, and it's like the perfect sales tool because like, I get perfect information about these customers about like where they're struggling. And so when I call them back, I could say like, oh, I saw you were struggling in these 3 areas. Could we help you with them? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It gives me perfect information on who not to call. Like if the company is like doing so well and there's like no problems whatsoever, I'm just going to be wasting my time. Nothing I do will improve their results because they're already perfect. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I can learn about their spend if it's like in my sweet spot. Like this notion of like I would spend the $10,000 hiring like 3 engineers for a month to come up with some clever growth hack to make your product or service like 100 times better, and that would make the difference. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, great answer. So are you essentially saying that if a business is profitable already, the best thing that they can focus on is improving what they do rather than actually spending more on marketing what they do already?
That's where the leverage is. Like you're saying, if you only had X dollars.
Yeah.
Now, in reality, businesses have more than X dollars, and so they can do both. But if you had to choose, the most leverage is in improving your product and services.
My number one takeaway.
Well, Larry, you have offered a lot of great advice in our conversation, but what is the number one takeaway? What's the single most important step that our listeners need to take away and implement in their businesses?
So we've been talking a lot about digital trends and advertising and growth hacking. I think the number one takeaway is just to be the unicorn in a sea of donkeys. There's just so much crap and garbage out there. The key to success is just being the remarkable company that isn't a donkey.
Be the unicorn in the sea of donkeys. I want to see a few tweets out there saying that, dear listener. That's a wonderful quote and a memorable one as well. So, that takes us to the end of our discussion today. So thank you so much for your time and your advice, Larry. What's the best way for a listener to find out more about you and what you do?
I'm on Twitter at least 22 times a day. So just, hit me up on Twitter. It's Larry Kim.
Superb, and obviously links to that in the show notes there as well. So thanks to Larry, and thanks to your listener too. If you enjoyed what Larry shared today, tell us what you think. An iTunes review is always good, and I might even read it out on a future episode. And if Twitter's your thing, @David Bain is my handle as well. Maybe it's your thoughts on this episode, maybe it's your thoughts on what we should discuss on future episodes. Whatever it is, it would be good to hear from you. But until we meet again, be fantabulous and do one thing that scares you. Adios. Thanks again, Larry.
Thanks,
Great episode.
Thanks.